Herb Cohen again. I'm a licensed creative arts therapist, EMDR certified. I have a specialization in trauma and addiction. And I want to talk about something that really affects us both in the field of trauma and addiction. And it's probably the most single emotion that has the most amount of avoidance attached to it. And that issue is shame. So that's going to be the topic of today. I'm just going to encapsulate some bullet points that I think we really are going to change how we context shame. Before we begin, I want to remind you that these valuable videos can keep coming to you if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you like what you're seeing or experiencing, then hit the like button and visit my website too. That's herbcohen.one. I have a whole page written on shame to give you an even more information about this subject. So that's herbcohen.one. It's spelled out. See you there and see you next. When shame is around, shame seems to stick. And it's important that we address shame, because shame is one of the most intolerant feelings we can feel. And usually there are two levels of shame that we experience. And I know that in 12-step programs, we're dealing with shame. We're looking at identifying how we may have hurt people during our addiction and releasing those by making amends where we can and not hurt people further. But we're only dealing with the shame that is on the surface. We're dealing there with the shame where we've hurt others from our addiction. Sure, that's going to make us feel shameful and guilty, and it should. You know, if we've done things that we need to take responsibility for, we take responsibility for, and that's what recovery is about. But underneath that shame is usually another layer underneath. And that layer underneath is the shame that has belief systems, causal belief systems attached to it that may not be rational. And even though we may look at them and know they're irrational, they're fixed that way. So if we've experienced childhood trauma or domestic violence, we may get this message from the non-love we're receiving from our parents, the neglect or the abuse, that we are not good enough, that we're not lovable, that we are not, we're not worthy of being loved, and we're unlovable. All these things manifest as shame. And we may not even be aware that something that happened so long ago is driving me to not feel good now, to the point where I need to pick up a drink or use drugs or do something to avoid being in this moment. So I've got shame driving my behavior. Shame synergizing with feeling good, creating my addiction. So if I do something to remove me from this consciousness of feeling shame, and I feel great because of that, or I feel even better because I can't remember anything because I'm numbing out, that all synergizes together. And that's what causes and fixes an addiction memory. We can desensitize this memory and treat the addiction. But understand, we need to go inside. When we deal with shame, we have to deal with shame on two levels: the surface and the underlying shame that's connected to these irrational ideas that may be connected to my relationships growing up.